November 29th, Christine Young suddenly woke up out of a deep sleep feeling a cold sensation come over her. It was exactly 5:45 a.m. and she noticed that her arms and legs were starting to go numb. She thought it was strange but brushed it off in the moment, not knowing what it could have meant. After all, she needed to get some sleep so she could wake up to meet with her daughter later in the morning like they had planned for a while now. But when Christine's daughter Ashley didn't show up for their arranged meeting, she began to worry. She started frantically calling Ashley's phone but got no response. So she called each one of Ashley's friends to see if they had any idea where she was. This is when she learned that her daughter Ashley had plans to meet up with 30-year-old Jared Chance and hadn't been seen since leaving a local bar with him. A few days later, police receive a disturbing phone call from a concerned neighbor in Grand Rapids, Michigan. This neighbor explains that he's just stumbled upon a tarp with a stream of blood leaking from it. When police arrive, they find that the tarp is wrapped around a human torso. The owner of that apartment? Jared Chance. The DNA of the torso is tested and it comes back that it is human and that it does belong to Ashley Young. Ashley's arms and legs were later found in a box in Jared's apartment. That's when Ashley's mom, Christine, recalls the incident from a few days prior. She believes that at the time she woke up at exactly 5:45 in the morning was the time of her daughter Ashley's death. Unfortunately, Ashley's head has still never been located.
Have you guys heard of the Night Lady? This all started in Chihuahua, Mexico, 2009. Residents started noticing something really disturbing. You see, now some of the children in the area were going missing. I gotta grab some food for this one. Look at this beautiful roll. Now with all the children around the area going missing, people started reporting seeing a woman. They said she would climb on the rooftops during the day, only to wait till night to sneak in through the window to snatch children. Police then sketched an image of what they believed to be the Night Lady. Only one child has been reported of actually escaping the Night Lady. You see, his parents had ran into the room and caught her just in time. She quickly then escaped and crawled out of the window. Wait, before I continue, let's say the Night Lady had taken you. Your third act has to come and save you. Who is it? Let me know who it is. Anyways, the kid that got away recounted waking up in the middle of the night and seeing the Night Lady standing over top of him just watching him. People have brushed this off as just one big hoax until after midnight, a teenage girl had captured this photo. This is supposedly the Night Lady.
You guys know the drill when you see this background. I'm only telling you once. Today's story is on the gory side, so viewer discretion is advised. It's story time. Take a seat. I can't believe Nemo just touched that butt. On August 17th, 2003, there was a man by the name of Doug McKay who was the co-owner of this carnival in Seattle, Washington. On this day, Doug would be oiling up a section of the carnival's most famous ride. It went by the name of the Super Loop 2. Doug would be scanning the area of this roller coaster, looking at it, trying to figure out which parts to oil while it was still active and full of passengers. As the ride began going through its famous loop, Doug McKay was standing right underneath it. Unfortunately for Doug, his hair would be blowing straight up from the wind, and it would cause it to get caught by the wheels on this roller coaster. After his hair was caught, the momentum of the roller coaster was just so great that it swooped him off his feet and just started carrying him along with the other passengers. After a short while of being ragdolled through the air by this ride, there'd be a piece of metalwork that was sticking out, and it would go across his throat, cutting it. The cut wouldn't be enough to kill him, but it would be enough to spray blood all over this little boy by the name of Dylan Bowles, who was directly in front of them when this happened. He would be the only one out of 30 people on that ride who got sprayed by Doug's blood. But the worst was yet to come. While Doug was still barely alive, the ride would loop the loop again, and this loop was so great that it tore his scalp clean off his head. The separation of his scalp would free him from the roller coaster, but with his throat cut and his head scalped, it sent blood spraying everywhere. Wait for it. Directly on a class of children who were standing in line for another ride. After these poor kids had been sprayed with blood, Doug would continue his journey through the air and crash into this beam that folded him in half like a lawn chair. He would finally die after hitting the concrete that was below him, but the impact was so great that it caused his guts, brains, you name it, to splatter everywhere. And remember, kids were here. Oh, and the icing on the cake, the splatter from that would get all over another bunch of kids who were just unfortunate to be walking by at the time. Gross. After this mayhem finally came to an end, the police and the fire department would come by really fast and try to cover up everything, but it'd be too late for the people that already saw it. The Super Loop 2 would be closed for the remainder of the summer and be used as a sort of memorial for Doug.
I've been flying for almost 30 hours and the flight attendants won't stop crying. 30 hours ago, right as I boarded my flight, I fell asleep for a while before waking up to severe turbulence. When I looked at my phone, it said it was 4:03 a.m., but my jaw dropped when I looked out the window. I knew there was no ocean between my two destinations, so why are we flying over an ocean? I called a flight attendant over only to see her grinning from ear to ear, tears pouring down her cheeks. "How can I help you?" she asked. "Where are we? Why does it look like we're flying over an ocean?" She wiped her tears, still grinning. "We'll be landing in about an hour." After she left, I checked my phone again, 4:03 a.m. It hadn't changed. Something was terribly wrong. This isn't possible. So I started a stopwatch and stared at every clock, waiting for the time to change. It never did. My stopwatch is now telling me I've been on this plane for more than 30 hours. I tried talking to the other passengers, but they all said they're expecting to land in an hour. I'd almost given up hope when a woman walked down the aisle. She didn't look at me, but she dropped a piece of paper onto my tray table. It said, "Are you stuck too?" I pulled out a pen and wrote, "Yes, it's been 30 hours." I folded up the paper and the woman picked it up as she passed by. It's been 20 minutes since then. I don't think the flight attendants would like it if they knew we were talking, but I have to do something. I'll update you all with whatever happens next. Follow for more.
This is why they started putting bells on grave sites. Being buried alive is probably one of the most terrifying things that could ever happen to you, and it actually happened a lot more than you think. One of the most infamous cases was of a woman who was buried alive not once, but twice. A woman named Alice drank a drink that contained poppy seed that put her into such a sedated state that the doctors pronounced her dead and quickly buried her. But a few days after they buried her, some children were playing above her gravesite, kind of weird, but okay, and they heard groans and screams coming from inside her grave. She had been fighting and clawing and doing everything she could to try to get out of her coffin, fighting with her literal life. A day later, they finally got in and got her body out, but she was so bloody and so bruised that she seemed like she was on the brink of death and didn't seem like she was moving. So, assuming that she had been alive for the last couple of days, but now she wasn't, they put her back in the grave and put her right back down. A graveyard worker was charged with the task of watching over her grave to make sure that if any other noises occurred throughout the night, they'd be able to pull her out. But sometime he decided that he didn't want to do that and he left to go to a local pub. However, she still hadn't died. She woke up in her coffin again. She scratched, she tore, she did everything she could, going into a full-blown panic about being put back in the ground. This time, when they went under to check her coffin to make sure that she had died, they found all the fresh scratches, all the fresh wounds from her trying to escape again, but this time, she had finally died. And that's why they started putting bells on gravesites.
Just imagine capturing this on your Ring camera. It was 2018 and just outside of her condo in Phoenix, Arizona when Jessica Catania got an alert on her phone and saw this. According to her eventual statement, she immediately realizes she's in danger. She locks her bedroom door, she starts dialing 911, but that's when she heard it. So whoever this man was, he then pries open the living room window and pops out the screen. He's in the house. This woman, Jessica, she's like incredibly resourceful in a stressful situation. She immediately grabbed a hammer, any weapon that she could find from her closet, and she hides in her bathroom. But while she's waiting in there, she's got the door locked, but it would only be about 3 minutes before she eventually hears police inside her condo. But the problem is, they never found the man. To this day, she has no idea who this man was or why he broke into her condo. In the investigation, police would eventually nickname him Smiles.